This is a martial arts competition that took place in Chinatown, United States. A karate master mocked Chinese martial arts, and several masters stepped forward one by one to challenge him, only to be defeated miserably. Just as the karate master was about to deliver a deadly blow, the story must be told from a month earlier. That day, a black man came to the Ip Man martial arts school, requesting to see Ip Man. However, due to language barriers, Ip Man's disciples mistakenly thought he wanted to challenge the school. When both parties prepared to fight, the black man also proved to be very skilled in boxing and kicks. After a few moves, the disciples were defeated. Fortunately, Ip Man arrived just in time, knocking the opponent to the ground with a kick. But the black man was not at all displeased. Instead, he excitedly called out to his master. It turned out he was a disciple under Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee opened a martial arts school in America to spread Chinese martial arts. This time, he wanted to invite Ip Man to the United States to watch the upcoming karate championship. Bruce Lee was able to establish a martial arts school abroad, which naturally pleased Ip Man, but he politely declined the black man's invitation. Because at this time, Ip Man had already been diagnosed with cancer. Although he was over 50, he was not afraid of death, but he was most worried about his son, Ye Zheng. In his youth, Ye Zheng was uninterested in school and instead obsessed with martial arts, often fighting and causing trouble at school. The school could only expel him. Ip Man was very helpless about this. One day, when he was checking Ye Zheng's injuries, he coincidentally met the son of an acquaintance. Ye Zheng had once been a school bully, but after studying abroad in the US, he had become a confident and handsome young man. Ip Man thought to himself, if Ye Zheng could be as independent as him, he could rest assured in the future. Back home, Ip Man discussed with Feibo about Ye Zheng studying abroad in the US. However, Ye Zheng had no interest in school at all. Ip Man was very disappointed and, in anger, slapped Ye Zheng. Feibo quickly stepped in to stop him. Ip Man was overwhelmed with mixed feelings. He asked Feibo to take better care of Ye Zheng, then went alone to the US to find a school for him. According to an acquaintance, Genj, Chinese students wanting to study in the US must have a letter of recommendation from a respected local figure. Fortunately, Genj had already arranged everything. President Wan of the Chinese General Association was always willing to help Chinese people. When they arrived by car, they found Master Luo also present. After exchanging pleasantries, they went to the living room, where many respected figures were gathered. Among them, President Wan's Tai Chi was particularly famous. Ip Man respectfully clasped his fists in greeting, but noticed that everyone looked serious. It turned out there was an unwritten rule in Chinatown. All martial arts schools were not allowed to teach foreigners. But Bruce Lee not only broke this rule, he also compiled martial arts into a book in English. As Ip Man's disciple, Bruce Lee's master, he would not help Ip Man write a recommendation letter until this issue was resolved. After speaking, President Wan suddenly exerted force, pushing a glass turntable towards Ip Man. Ip Man blocked it with a palm strike. The two exchanged blows through the glass, secretly competing, neither willing to yield. After a fierce fight, the glass suddenly shattered, and the meeting ended on a sour note. The next morning, Ip Man was walking on the school playground when he coincidentally witnessed a school fight. Several boys were teaming up to bully a girl. The girl clearly knew a few moves, but outnumbered and outmatched, she was pressed against the iron fence, her long hair forcibly cut short. After exhausting all her strength to break free, she grabbed a white girl and pushed her hard, accidentally cutting her face with scissors. Just as the girl was about to escape, she was grabbed by the arm. One of them suddenly kicked the door. At this critical moment, Ip Man finally arrived. He pushed the girl aside with a palm strike, but his arm was caught heavily in the door. Facing the provocations of the young troublemakers, Ip Man remained calm and composed, effortlessly scaring off the thugs. During their conversation, they learned that the girl's name was Ruonan, and her father was actually President Wan of the Chinese Association. With the spirit of doing good to the end, Ip Man took Ruonan home. Unexpectedly, his kindness was mistaken for ulterior motives. The two of them went to the center of the living room, exchanged greetings, and then assumed fighting stances. President Wan was the first to make a move. Combining Tai Chi with yin-yang and the 5 elements, his style was gentle yet powerful. After a bout, Ip Man found himself at a disadvantage. He was pushed back by a move from Wan, and his left hand trembled uncontrollably, clearly injured while saving Ruonan. President Wan keenly sensed the abnormality. As a martial artist, he disdainfully refused to take advantage of others' vulnerability. They both turned their backs at the same time. When they advanced again, Ip Man gradually gained the upper hand, delivering a punch that forced Wan back. Seeing this, Wan also became fierce, exchanging fists with Ip Man, staggering backward. However, Ip Man only stabilized himself with his legs. When he moved forward again, Wan suddenly swung his arm, but Ip Man seized the opportunity to grab him. Wan was knocked back several meters and his right foot hovered in the air, but Wan still refused to give up. They came to the table, neither willing to yield. Ip Man pushed with a palm, creating distance, and looked at each other with serious expressions, when suddenly the ground trembled violently. The lights suddenly fell, and they quickly hid under the table. After the earthquake, the house was in chaos, but luckily no one was hurt. The match was also declared over. How heavy exactly is Bruce Lee's fist? Next, pay attention as thunderous applause erupted in the arena. Ip Man on the spectator stand was pleased. Bruce Lee's performance at the karate tournament concluded successfully. After the match, Bruce Lee and his disciples went to a restaurant. At this moment, a group of foreigners dressed in karate uniforms burst in, rudely provoking Bruce Lee and his group. Bruce Lee was already used to this. In a foreign land, it's inevitable to face contempt. Bruce Lee's response was simple and straightforward. The two groups immediately went outside. The leading foreigner prepared to fight, but Bruce Lee smiled slightly, pointing to two people beside him, indicating for the three of them to come together. Seeing this, the three rushed forward but couldn't last a single round. At this moment, the big bearded coach in the alley kicked a street lamp to pieces with a single foot, then fiercely pointed at Bruce Lee, signaling him to come over. This person was a genuine fourth-degree black belt in the underworld. But Bruce Lee was not afraid at all and followed him into the alley. After some probing, the coach took the lead in attacking. Several heavy kicks came at him, but Bruce Lee dodged poorly and was kicked in the stomach. Although he suffered a small loss, Bruce Lee quickly recovered and responded with a high spinning kick. Then he kicked him against the wall. After provocatively beckoning, the coach stepped forward again, but he was met with a flying kick. The coach quickly got up, still unsatisfied, and continued his attack. However, his bulky body not only failed to harm Bruce Lee in the slightest, but was instead struck by several punches. After a series of combos, the coach was dizzy and disoriented. Seeing that punches and kicks were no match, the coach unexpectedly pulled out nunchaku from his waist. This was undoubtedly a provocation. After Bruce Lee dodged repeatedly, he grabbed the nunchaku, then punched it away. The coach was stunned, and then grabbed an iron rod nearby, but couldn't get close to Bruce Lee at all. After striking the rod several times, Bruce Lee threw the nunchaku back to him, then kicked him hard in the chest. The coach fell to the ground, showing a bitter expression, and couldn't help but give Bruce Lee a thumbs up. Bruce Lee's disciple, He Wen, was pulling a wooden dummy. He walked straight into a US military camp. In his view, Wing Chun emphasizes reaction and adaptability. If applied to real combat, it would be highly beneficial on the battlefield. But General Patton dismissed this and even mocked Chinese kung fu as mere flower fists and embroidery legs, ordering him immediately to throw out the wooden dummy. At Patton's command, all soldiers were assembled and publicly promised that if He Wen could defeat an Aikido coach, Patton would consider his proposal. But He Wen had only practiced Wing Chun for a few months, and faced with the decisive and ruthless Aikido coach, he was almost helpless. He was defeated in just a few moves. After mocking He Wen, Patton still refused to relent. To punish He Wen for his insubordination, he ordered all Chinese soldiers in the camp to run 30 laps. The wooden dummy was also burned to ashes right before He Wen's eyes. But He Wen was not willing to give up. He found the commanding officer and showed him some footage of Bruce Lee. After watching, the general expressed great interest. Seizing the opportunity, He Wen mentioned that there would be a martial arts performance at the Chinatown Mid-Autumn Festival. To study Chinese kung fu in depth and incorporate it into hand-to-hand combat training, He Wen applied to go film the event. The general readily agreed. However, upon learning of this, Patton was furious. He immediately found the Aikido coach and sent him to Chinatown to diminish the reputation of Chinese kung fu and let the Chinese people see the prowess of Aikido. The Mid-Autumn Festival was quickly approaching. At this moment, the festival was in full swing. While everyone was watching with great interest, the Aikido coach pushed through the crowd and took his disciple onto the stage. Amid boos, the coach gathered his strength and suddenly struck 3 large stones with his palm, splitting them in half. He then continued to mock the masters in the audience. Seeing President Wan delay in appearing, Master Luo could no longer bear it and decided to take action himself. The audience cheered loudly. Unfortunately, the ring was too slippery, and Master Luo slipped off the stage after being hit once with a fist and once with a foot. But in front of the 4 sections of the underworld, several masters all suffered humiliating defeats and ended their matches. Just as the coach was about to strike hard, Ip Man stepped in and pushed him back with a kick. Seeing that the opponent was still unwilling to give up, he threw another punch and knocked him to the ground. A fierce battle was about to begin. Ip Man was both offensive and defensive, launching a powerful Reezy punch that forced the opponent to retreat repeatedly. The coach slowly stepped forward, raising his right leg, but was pushed down by Ip Man. His fists rained down like hail, attacking from the abdomen to the head, followed by a heavy kick. The coach seized the opportunity, broke free from his restraints, and charged again, but was hit in the abdomen by Ip Man's punch. He blocked the opponent's fist with his left hand, and his right palm suddenly stopped at his opponent's neck. The outcome was clear, but the coach was still not willing to give up, and IP Man had no choice but to oblige him. He pushed him down and delivered a heavy punch that struck him hard. The coach instantly collapsed and could not get up. Amid the cheers of the spectators below, the coach was carried away in disgrace by his disciples. Barton saw the coach severely injured and was furious. He drove alone to the Chinese Association and immediately started a fight. Inside the Chinese Association, more than a dozen masters could not withstand Barton's fierce assault. Soon, they all fell to the ground. After knocking down the masters, Barton found President Wan. Suddenly, his daughter Ruonan appeared, begging them to spare her father, even kneeling down directly. President Wan immediately pulled his daughter up. He told her there was no need to kneel to these foreigners. When you can't bear it anymore, you don't have to endure it. President Wan followed Barton back to the military camp. Barton gathered all the soldiers and publicly declared his intention to defeat President Wan. He hurriedly came after hearing the news. President Wan looked at Huenda faintly, then slowly stepped onto the stage. No rules were set between them, until one of them fell. A fierce battle was about to erupt. Barton lunged forward but was dodged by President Wan, who pushed him down with a palm. He then assumed a Tai Chi stance. Facing Barton's fierce attack, President Wan used softness to overcome hardness, using a technique that turned the force back onto Barton, knocking him to the ground. The two advanced again, and President Wan, with his agility, repeatedly knocked Barton down. However, Barton's excellent skills prevented him from suffering any real injuries. Meanwhile, President Wan, being elderly, gradually fell behind. Barton fought more bravely, blocking President Wan's attacks repeatedly, then delivered 2 heavy punches. President Wan fell to the ground with a bitter expression, rolling for several weeks. Just as he got up, Barton advanced again, delivering a heavy elbow strike. President Wan staggered backward. After regaining his composure, he pressed his foot against Barton's neck, but was kicked in both legs. Barton showed no mercy, leaping forward with a flying knee, grabbing President Wan, and throwing him down violently. Huenda kept urging President Wan to surrender. But as a proud Chinese man of iron will, how could he give up easily? President Wan stood up again, summoning his last strength to kick his opponent but was struck in the right leg with a punch. Barton seized the opportunity, kicking President Wan's calf until it was broken. President Wan knelt on the ground, wailing and trying to stand up again, but Barton refused to give him that chance. He kicked him again in the head, and President Wan immediately fainted. Hearing the commotion, Wen hurriedly took President Wan to the hospital and called IP Man to inform him. After learning that President Wan was seriously injured and hospitalized, IP Man hurried to visit him. Looking through the glass at President Wan's numerous injuries, IP Man silently vowed that even in life and death, he would not allow Chinese martial arts to be humiliated. He then called back to Hong Kong, confessing to his son that he himself had cancer, and promised to return and personally teach him martial arts. His son was crying uncontrollably on the other end of the phone. Then he turned around and approached Wen, asking him to take him to the military camp. The next morning, while Barton was still ranting and insulting Chinese martial arts in front of the soldiers, IP Man and the other man walked in with determined gazes. After warming up, Barton suddenly charged forward. IP Man remained calm and composed, blocking repeatedly and then countering with punches and kicks to push Barton back. Barton was fearless, executing 2 throws followed by a knee strike. IP Man immediately started bleeding. After dodging Barton's flying kick, he turned and slapped Barton across the eye. Seizing the opportunity, he threw a punch but was struck in the leg and had to retreat repeatedly. After a fierce exchange, IP Man's injured left hand trembled slightly. Barton keenly sensed this and delivered several whip kicks to IP Man's left arm. He then charged forward, heavily throwing him down and kicking repeatedly at IP Man's abdomen. IP Man struggled to get up, his strong will moving the soldiers present. In the next confrontation, IP Man took the initiative to attack. Using his agility, he maneuvered around Barton, then grabbed his neck from behind, threw him to the ground, and kicked him. His fist kept swinging. Taking advantage of his moment of consciousness, he delivered a heavy punch to Barton's face. Barton immediately became furious. He rushed forward, firmly grabbing IP Man's arm but was kicked in the vital point. Seizing the moment, IP Man turned around, entangling Barton's arm, and with force, twisted it. Barton's arm instantly fractured. Then he struck out with his palm. Barton looked bitter, clutching his neck and weakly collapsing to the ground. IP Man successfully defended the dignity of Chinese martial arts. After lifting Barton away, the soldiers erupted into thunderous applause. After this battle, President Wan's opinion of IP Man completely changed, and he unconditionally provided a recommendation letter. Back in Hong Kong, IP Man no longer insisted that Ye Zheng study, but instead taught him Wing Chun according to his wishes. Under the setting sun, IP Man continued practicing on the wooden dummy as usual. The crisp sound accompanied his entire life. He had defeated Japanese officers, single-handedly defeated the world boxing champion Tornado, and was on par with American boxing champion. Ip Man had become a source of pride for the Chinese people, until February 2, 1972, when the Grandmaster Ip Man passed away from cancer at the age of 79.